Afternoon. So just doing a little video here. We've had a problem with our boiler. We've got a regular boiler. It's not a combi boiler, and we've got no heating. It's pretty cold at the minute, hence the hat. It's a Glow Worm Ultracom HXI, and we've been getting pressure faults come up. Errors F22, low system pressure. I'll flip the camera around in a minute so you can see what we've been doing, but I got a feeling that this is down to blockages, just crud in the system. The system's been flushed several times, but it really needs a power flush. So I'll flip around and show you where we're at. So this is the boiler. It's quite happy at the minute because I've reset the faults on it, but it's not enabled at the minute. So we've got a magnet filter up there, Fernox magnetic filter. Got the flow and return pipe work. I've done a little bit of a mod there because I've disconnected it from the system so we can drain it off. We can see the flow before the boiler and the flow coming out of the boiler there, which would be your return into the boiler and your flow out. This gives you some idea of the stuff that's been coming out the pipe work. And I've got a feeling this is non-magnetic, so it's not actually getting stopped by the magnet filter. But there's a lot of crud in there, and I imagine that's what's in the boiler. Give you some idea of the restriction that we're seeing. So the magnet filter here is on the return. You can see that's coming into the return here. And the flow, I've disconnected, put a stop in here, and just put this elbow on so we can see the water coming back out. So if I open this isolation valve here, we'll get water coming back from the system. This is gravity, there's no pumps running. And if we close this valve off, the water will come straight down through the boiler, through the heat exchange on the boiler, and it should come out of the flow pipe work. And really, it should come out at the same rate that it goes in. So let's open that up now. And you can see, and make that out. Not a lot of water coming out there at all. And we'll shut that off. Now if I open this valve here, this is just like the drain point for the magnet filter. And this is before the boiler. You can see the difference in the water flow there. Massive difference. So that's the pressure before the boiler. And then once again, if we shut this, that's the pressure after the boiler. So the only restriction between these two would be the heat exchanger. So I'm going to connect up mains cold water and see whether we can flush this out. Okay, so we're back again. I've connected up a hose pipe and I've connected that onto the drain point of the filter. So when I open this valve here now, we'll be bringing in mains cold water through the filter. The valve at the top shut there, so the water can't get into the rest of the system. This valve is open, so the water's going to come down and it's going to come into what was the return of the system, and it's going to come out of the flow and down here, which will just vent into that bucket down the bottom. Now this might not be very successful. The reason for that is the water normally comes back to the boiler down the return, so you would imagine that's going to be where all the crud is coming in. So the blockage is probably this side where the water pressure would have been, and we're going to be pushing against that now with mains water, which might just pack it in tighter. But because we've already got the mod in place like this, I'm going to give it a go, see if we can shift anything, and if not, I'll modify the pipe work and try and make it so that we can introduce mains onto the flow side and push it back through and out through the filter, back out of that drain point now. So let's open it up and see what happens. Oh yes, we've had some. Let's have a bit there. Let's just get this going into the bucket. Okay, so let's open it up and try again. See how we get on. There's definitely more flow there. A lot more pressure. It looks like we're blowing. So look at the water flow. You can see bits coming out of there. So it looks like we are shifting some. It's a good sign. And what we'll do, we'll just force it through. And then when the bucket's nearly full, yeah, there's a lot coming out there, look. Really starting to shift now. So when the bucket's almost full, I'll stop this, drain off the bucket and see what we've got in the bottom of it. Well, that was fairly successful. You can see the amount of rubbish that came out. That's our first blast, and that was going in the direction. So really we're blowing against the muck. There's quite a lot and some big chunks. So there's a good chance that's shifted most of the blockage. I mean, looking at how much was coming out of the pipes, there's also a chance there's a fair bit more yet. But I've turned I played safe on that one. I had the hose turned about halfway, so I've turned it up full. So we're on full system pressure now. I'm going to give it another go. See if we can shift anything else. See some pretty big chunks coming out again. Okay, I'm back. I've done a bit of a modification on the pipe work now. With the yellow hose now coming in is our mains water. I've had to do a little bit of rigging up, Jubilee clip and stuff, so that mains water is now coming in on the flow. So we're back flushing the cylinder now, or back flushing the heat exchanger. So the water pressure is coming onto this flow and it's coming through the heat exchanger back out here. At the minute I've got this valve isolated because I don't want to get wet, and I've also got this open here, closed, sorry. I've come up with a bit of a method of collecting. Just don't tell the other half. So this is what we got so far, and that was running it through from flow. From return to flow, so the way the water would normally be flowing through the heat exchanger. And we're going to back flush that now, reverse the flow and see where we get on. So it looks like we've got good pressure coming through now. I'd say it's almost equal pressure coming through from mains water. What we're getting out is what we're putting in, I would have thought. So it's actually almost like it's flowing better on the back flush than it is, which I guess you would expect. But that said, not actually a lot of crud coming out, so maybe we got rid of most of it going through the standard route. We'll let this run for a bit and see what we collect. Okay, so minor disaster avoided there. A little bit of an overflow, but not a flood, thankfully. But what's interesting, we've got very little crud come out of it. So either we've managed to wash it all out with our earlier efforts, or it's not shifting it when we're doing the back flushing. So I'm going to connect the hose back up from return to flow, use a sieve and see whether we're bringing anything else out then. Now you can see the pressure. We're bringing more stuff through this time. And the pressure, I think we've cleared the blockage. The pressure is definitely equaled out now. Sounds like we've cleared the blockage now. Shut that off with that. Let's have a look what we've collected. Wow. Look at the size of these chunks. Okay, that's a bit of good fishing. We'll try again. Empty the bucket, give it another go. Okay, I've swapped the pipes over again, so the feed's now on the flow. So we're back flushing. Let's give that a go, see if we've shifted something. Little bits again like before, so let's try doing the stop-start under pressure. Give it a blast. It does give it a blast, but it doesn't really move much. Yeah, nothing much really. Very little coming out now, so I think we must be somewhere near. All the flushing is done, I think. So we're going to give it a go now. Look at what we did in the first place, and that was doing a comparison between the water coming out before the boiler on the gravity fed, and then we're going to route it through the boiler and have a look, see whether we've improved the flow. Spin you around. So we've got all the valves isolated at the minute, so we're going to keep this one isolated so there'll be no flow into the boiler. And we're going to open that one, and we're going to open the drain tap. Let's open this one first. So we should have the same amount of flow that we had previously. Pretty good flow. That's off the gravity fed side. Now let's route it through the boiler. Amazing. Before we had a trickle coming through there. So it looks like we've cleared the blockage. So that looks like we might have fixed the problem. We'll get it all plumbed back in and fire it up and see what happens. Okay, the boiler's plumbed back in now. So if we fix the problem, it should fire. If we haven't fixed the problem, it will quite rapidly heat up and it will start to boil. And it will probably go out on error. That looks quite promising. The temperature's holding there, so we'll expect the burner to back off soon. There we go, it's backed off, it's now modulating. So previously we didn't get that far. The boiler would have just gone out on overpressure. So it looks like that's a result. Let's crank it up a bit. Let's get 75 because it's cold. And there we go. So here we can see what we got out. All of that came out of the boiler. This lot was out of pipe work. I'd imagine there's a whole lot more of that where that came from. So that's it, and the boiler's happily Chugging away now. Very quiet. Job done. One easy fix for your average engineer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.